Hi everyone and welcome to Module 7. I'm so excited to be getting to this stage in the program because I feel almost everything I've been talking about thus far leads to this. And what I'm going to share with you here is very intimate. It is a technique that I use in my life. It's probably one of the most important lessons I've ever encountered, but it requires a build-up. So let's dive straight in. But it's about the idea of merging with anything in the world that you want to bring into creation. Now, I know I'm being a little bit vague there, so we'll dive in, and it will become more apparent as we go through. But merging is essentially being able to consciously connect with any vision, any idea that you want to bring into the world and accelerate that idea coming into the world. It is as close as one could possibly get, or as close as I've been able to get, with the idea of really experiencing how your thoughts create your reality. It is way more advanced than the Creative Visualization course, which I put out at Mind Valley, or any book I've come across, or ideas that you may have learned in many other programs. It took me 10 years to really understand this technique, to have it click with me. But since I began using this, my life has never been the same again. So let's dive in deep. Now, the first thing to understand is that there are 4 levels of awareness, of conscious evolution. Early man was at level 0. This was the level just up from animals. Level 1 is modern man, where we understand that we have 1 foot in the physical world, 1 foot in the world of cognition. And through the use of language, we create ideas such as corporations, culture, mythology, religion, meditation, God. Level 2 is when you become a reality hacker or a culture hacker, and you understand that all of these rules that govern the world are hackable. You can choose to ignore them, to bend them, to mold them to your desire. Now, as you continue questioning these rules, you go into what is called a state of limitless. Now, as you go from modern man, level 1, to level 2, to level 3, the way you practice manifesting, the way you use your mind to create your reality shifts and it transforms dramatically. And what we're going to talk about here is level 3 operation. Now, there is a level 4, which is the God mind. I believe that all of us are particles of God experiencing existence. Particle of God, I love that phrase. One could say, the word I coined for it is Godical. And I'm still experimental with level 4. So we're just going to touch on level 4. I'll share with you some of the things I've noticed, but we won't go deep into level 4. Mostly in this lesson, we're going to go to level 3. So many of you are going to be at level 2, some are at level 1. But the Reverend Michael Beckwith says that once you see the level ahead of you, it accelerates you getting to that level. So I would bet that the vast majority of people listening to this program, 99% of you are at level 2, but a large chunk of you are ready to burst to level 3. What we are looking to do here is show you what level 3 looks like so we can accelerate your evolution to that level, which is what we call the state of limitless. So again, culture hacker is where many of you are. You're starting to question culture, question the norms of society. But what we want to get you to is the state of limitless. And what we'll do here is also give you a quick glimpse, at least what I've experienced being fully connected with the God mind. So at each level, you react to the world and shape the world in different ways. Level 1, you're a victim of circumstance. The world is happening to you, poor you. You can't control it. Level 2, you start to understand that your thoughts create reality. But when you get to level 3, it's a different world. When you get to level 3, which is the state of limitless, you become a servant to a higher calling. Intention disappears. Instead, level 3 is about the calling. Now, let me explain what that is. In level 2, you have intentions, you have goals, you know what you want, you know that body you want, you know that ideal marriage you want, you know that business you want to start, or that career you want to have, or the money you want in your bank. But when you accelerate to level 3, that stops becoming important. Instead, at level 3, you're fully plugged into life. See, you've started questioning a lot of the rules that lead to separation. When you get to level 3, religion disappears. You start to see the connectedness with all religion. You start to see that whether you're Muslim or Hindu or Christian, ultimately it's all leading to that same state. That the lower levels of every religion were about separation, about dogma. But as you ascend, you start to see that all religions are leading to the same path, or trying to get you there, to the best of their ways, to the best of their understanding thousands of years ago. But ultimately, you start seeing that all religion is the same. So often people at level 3 stop saying they are of a particular religion. And if they do, it's because they are appreciating that religion as part of their cultural background. But they see the connectedness between all religions. Now, as these separations start disappearing, you can see that you're American, but you understand that you are just as well in love with and connected to every culture, every country on the planet. You can see that you are a man, but you can understand what it is to be a woman. Or you can see that you're a woman and understand what it is to be a man. There is no separation. You care about the rights of people in Africa. You care about gay rights. You care about Republicans and Democrats. You care about kids and adults. When you're at level 3, the rules that govern separation that have been developed for thousands of millennia across human culture start breaking away. And when that happens, you become very connected to life. Some people, Ken Wilber, Andrew Cohen, philosophers, talk about it from a stage of human development which is ethnocentric to world-centric. Okay, so you start to be at the world-centric level. Now, something interesting happens when you get connected to life. Life starts speaking to you. When you get to level 3, inspiration is what leads to your intention. Life speaks through you. So many people call this a calling. And this calling kind of tells you what you should be focusing on. I know many people who are at level 3. Many of them are billionaires. Many of them are some of the world's most extraordinary entrepreneurs. But one thing I've noticed about all of them is that they have a deep calling, and they're genuinely good people. They care about the world. They have a deep calling, and they pursue this calling in a missionary way. They are zealot. This calling is what governs them. Sometimes they do it in unhealthy ways. Some of them I know have lost their marriages, lost their health, pursuing the calling, but they pursue that calling because that calling is their calling to push humanity forward. I've interviewed Arianna Huffington. That woman is an angel. She's genuinely a good person. Her calling, in addition to building one of America's biggest media empires, is to get people to thrive, to connect with their spirituality. She wrote a book on it called Thrive. I've had countless hours chatting with Richard Branson. His calling is to create entrepreneurs, to create better customer service, to bring fun into business. I've asked questions to Elon Musk. His calling is the environment, to help save the planet. That's why he started and popularized the electric car. All of these people are good. And I noticed that that calling is so important to them that they would sometimes unhealthily sacrifice other aspects of life just to hit that calling. Now, we'll talk about how not to have those sacrifices, but the important thing to understand is that when you get to level 3, the calling seems to come through you. It's as if you are serving a higher power. So I like to use this analogy. At level 2, you want to rocket towards your goal. You know what that goal is. You know you want to start a company in that particular area and you want to rocket there. And you're going to use your intention, your goal setting, every trick in the book to get there. But when you get to level 3, before you rocket towards a goal, you tap into your intuition, which is like a compass, to gauge, am I really pointed in the right direction? Let me give you this analogy, okay? So many entrepreneurs decide that they want to start a company. So let's say you want to start a company to create a particular type of app for people to consume the news. Now, if you are in level 2, the rocket, what you would do is that becomes your goal. You create the app for people to digest the news. And we all know that entrepreneurship is a dangerous occupation. A lot of people fail. I think the last statistic from the American Business Association is about 1 in 19 fail, right? So odds are against you. You are very likely going to fail. Maybe if you know some of the programs and the ideas that we've trained you thus far, your odds of success go up. But still, if you do fail, you have failed at that goal. And to many people, it's a severe blow. But the entrepreneur at level 3 would never say, I want to create an app for people to consume the news. They would be driven by a mission. Maybe that mission is, I want to create a better connected world by getting global news out to people so that in my country, people are not just aware of what's going on locally, but they're aware of what's going on globally. And I want to raise awareness on issues such as global warming, such as the refugee crisis happening in Europe right now, such as pollution in China, so that collectively as a human species, we can tackle and solve these issues. Now, if you're a mission-oriented person, that is your primary mission. If you start the app for news and it fails, do you give up? No, because the app failed, but you did not fail at your mission. When your mission is broader, you're actually giving yourself more opportunity to succeed. You might just step back on and start another way to get awareness of these news issues out. In my case, because my mission was education and spirituality education, I can tell you a lot of my first ideas at Mindvalley failed, but Mindvalley didn't fail because our mission wasn't a particular type of meditation or a particular app or a particular website. We had those, some of those failed, but we pursued the bigger mission and we stumbled upon radical new ideas that helped us get there. So there's actually safety in leading a mission-oriented life. Not only is there safety because you're not attached to a particular path, but you're attached to a greater call, but generally when you lead a mission-oriented life, not only do I believe that you're serving the universe, but I believe that the universe helps you auto-correct. When you're going in the wrong direction, something happens to kick your butt, to get you back on the right path. I've had numerous situations where I've invested in companies or tried to launch ideas that were against my mission. Invariably, something would happen and I would hit a roadblock. But when I steered myself back towards my mission, back to a particular way to grow my mission, things would just explode. So at Mindvalley, if I start an idea and it fails, I celebrate that failure. I'm like, all right, that's the universe telling me that I shouldn't be going down that path. Let me try option B. But I never feel bad about it. So this auto-correction is something really unique that happens when you hit level 3, and it's a beautiful thing. I want to tell you the story of a man called Millard Fuller. Now I'm going to read this to you, so excuse me as I stop looking at the camera for a second. At the age of 30, Millard had made his first million, that's him in the picture there, and was aiming for 10 million more. He owned everything you could ask for, 2 to 3 cars, land, property. He had a business empire, but his marriage was crumbling. And one day, Millard Fuller received a letter from his wife, Linda, that she had fallen out of love with him and wanted a divorce. Now you can imagine how stressful this is. The week that followed was one of the most agonizing weeks of his life. He called Linda and begged for a second chance. Reluctantly, with tears in her eyes, she agreed. Together, they decided to get rid of everything they owned and start new. He gave up his entire business. But what next? What could he do next? Now, somehow Millard and Linda found themselves in Georgia a few years later. While doing volunteer work, they were struck by the dilapidated shacks that impoverished families in Georgia lived in. Millard and his co-workers started building homes for these needy people. Moved by the powerful impact these homes had on the people who moved into them, Millard decided to see if this simple concept of building homes for the needy in Georgia could expand. He knew that 25% of the world's population lacked adequate housing. Millard's goal was once to make 10 million. Now he had a new goal. His goal was to provide homes for 10 million people. From making 10 million to providing homes for 10 million people. He had a concept that could work worldwide, and he launched his business. It was Habitat for Humanity, one of the most incredible nonprofits in the world today. He launched Habitat for Humanity International in 1976. Habitat has really built homes, 60,000 homes for 300,000 people at the time of writing, which was 2003 when I wrote that. And he's now coordinating 800 building projects in 51 foreign countries. Millard and Linda now see themselves as two of the luckiest people alive. A single event, the threat of divorce, led them into a completely different path, one that not just made them happier, but benefited hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of human beings. Somehow like Millard, people pursue a goal that they think is correct, but the goal may be out of line with what their life purpose is. This is why I always encourage people to use their intuition to first determine if they're on the right path, the compass, before you rocket towards your goal. I love that story, and it consistently reminds me that sometimes when things seem to break down in life, it's a Kaizen moment. It's the universe kicking your butt to get you on that path that you really need to be on. So while many people pursue this, they have this mission-oriented life, one thing that does happen is that sometimes they fall out of balance. Let's talk about that. So 2 things happen that make us sometimes fall out of balance when we're pursuing our mission, or what we think is our mission. The first is the idea of being attached to a goal. So I explained earlier, right, the analogy of the guy who started an app for news versus the guy who has a mission to get global news out to the world population in a way to help humanity. When you're attached to the app becomes a means goal. If it fails, it's a failure for you. But if you're going for the bigger mission and you're not attached to how you're going to attain that mission, you open up more opportunities for autocorrection to happen, for the universe to guide you. So here's a couple of examples of how people mistakenly get attached. One classic example in manifesting or aiming for a goal is when we get attached to a particular someone. We get attached to a particular man or a particular woman. You are in a rocky relationship and you decide that you want that relationship to heal. Okay, but what if this person that you're with isn't meant to change? So what I always advise is that you aim for a healthy relationship, a relationship that fills all the criteria you want, but you stay open for this person to change or for someone else to come your way. A lot of people get attached to a particular someone, and this prevents the universe from opening up the full plethora of opportunity that might come your way. We even do it with things such as college. I remember a lady once asking me, well, look, I'm trying to get my daughter into Yale. How do I have my daughter visualize getting into Yale? And what I explained to her is, well, what makes you think that Yale is the right college for your daughter? Because college, of course, is a place where you go and you meet friends, you meet future business partners, future lovers. It changes your entire life. What if your daughter isn't meant to go to Yale? What if the man your daughter is meant to marry is in Georgetown? And that's where she needs to be. I mean, as a result of my college choice, I actually got into Georgetown. I turned down Georgetown because I had a calling to go to the University of Michigan, which is freaking cold. Most kids do not dream of going to Michigan. But at the University of Michigan, I met the man, Mike, who would become my business partner and help me start Mindvalley. Through events that happened at Michigan, I met my wife, Christina. If I hadn't followed that gut feeling to go to Michigan, even though I was meant to go to a way cooler university, Georgetown, I wouldn't be where I am today. So you don't set the goal to be in a particular university. Rather, you set the vision, the intention for the end goal. I want to have a great education. I want to be in an environment where I meet the right people whom I'm meant to meet to elevate me in life. I want to be in the right environment that will help me find and start my mission. Okay, so don't get attached to particular methods. Don't get attached to means goals, a particular university, a particular someone. Now, the second mistake people make is lack of balance. So here's how that works. You are so obsessed about your mission that you forget other areas of your life. Like I said, I know billionaires who are doing incredible things, but their marriage is crumbling or their health has gone to hell. That isn't wise. So here's a diagram that explains how I view my life. Okay, so I have my guiding mission right on top. That's education. My guiding mission creates a life where I love what I do. I love coming to work. I wake up every morning excited. But I have additional goals below that mission. I have goals for my health. I have goals for my creativity, which is my book, which are these courses I'm creating for you. And I have goals for my lifestyle. Once a year, I take a 7-day holiday with my entire family so I can introduce my kids to a new country. I love being able to come home and spend an hour playing with my children. I love being able to spend 45 minutes every morning in meditation and exercise. Those are all lifestyle goals that matter to me. But below that, I have a third level, and these are value-based goals, and there are 3 value-based goals I have. Love, growth, experiences. So value-based goals are basically a technique I learned from this woman, Christy Marie Sheldon, and also from Tony Robbins. Let's go back to the diagram a bit, and then we're going to go on to Christy's technique. So again, I have my mission, but my mission doesn't complete me. I take care of my health. I have a way to express my creativity. I have a way to grow my lifestyle. You may have other elements you might add there as your additional goals. That's okay. But even my health, my creativity, my lifestyle, all tied to my mission. My health, I stay in peak shape because I know I have to take the stage and teach and talk and be in front of cameras. I want to have the energy for that. I love creativity, but my creativity is not, say, writing a nonfiction book. It's writing books on education. I love my lifestyle. Part of my lifestyle is having an incredible office space to work because I love being surrounded by beautiful design and beauty and incredibly positive people. But my office space is all about education hacking, moving me towards my mission. Now, my value-based goals also all tie to my mission. I find that I'm most productive when I feel loved and I'm able to love. So one of my value-based goals is I'm always surrounded by love. Another one is that I'm always growing and learning and becoming the best person I could be. A third one is, as I'm pursuing my mission, I'm enjoying life and having the most gorgeous human experiences. So all of these value-based goals ensure that as I'm pursuing my mission, I have time to celebrate. to travel, to be madly in love, to be surrounded by incredible people, to party on exotic islands through opportunities I get. I'm not a solitary solo person stuck in a room, so obsessed with my mission that my life is one-dimensional. So you see how all of these work together? You have your mission, you have additional goals that are supporting goals, so you have balance, and you can have value-based goals. So let's come back to this technique by Christie Marie Sheldon, who's one of the best-selling authors on Mindvalley. So Christie teaches a technique called the Lofty Questions Technique. It's so simple, but it's so beautiful. It's something I do every day. So earlier we spoke about value-based goals, right? Love, growth, experiences. Now, the thing about these value-based goals is that what I like about value-based goals is that they are end goals that really mean something to you because they represent a value that's important to you. To me, my values are love, growth, and experiences. The best thing about value-based goals is that nobody can take them away from you. Look, I could lose my health someday. I could, for whatever reason, lose my lifestyle. You know, maybe I go broke. But nobody can take away my value-based goals. And my value-based goals are love, feeling love, growing. As long as I have a book and I can read a page, I can grow. Beautiful human experiences. As long I could be homeless in the streets of New York, but if I could walk to Central Park and lie on the grass and look up at a clear blue sky and enjoy the trees and the rocks around me, I'm having a beautiful human experience. Value-based goals are those things that no one can take away from you. So Christie Marie Sheldon teaches a question called the Lofty Questions Technique. When I am meditating at phase 4 of my 6-phase meditation, I don't say, I am always surrounded by love. I ask a question, right? Why am I always surrounded by love? Why am I always having such beautiful human experiences? Why am I always having such incredible experiences and growth? Why am I so healthy? So the Lofty Questions technique is a great way to start if you have even a slightest tinge of pessimism. Maybe your health is off, right? So if you say, I'm in perfect health, that nagging voice at the back of your head goes, no, you're not. You're lying in a hospital bed. But if you ask the question, why am I in perfect health? You're not stating you're in perfect health, so the negative voice is suppressed, but the act of asking that question seems to somehow accelerate you getting there. So it's a wonderful technique. There is a video to Christie's Lofty Questions method that we're going to put in this course, so you'll get to study that, but it's something I'd love for you to experiment with. Now, as we start moving towards these ideas, there are 3 rules. A rule, again, is a bullshit rule that hold us back. The first is realistic goal setting. Oh, I really dislike the idea of realistic goal setting. Dr. John Elliott, who wrote the book Overachievement, said, overachievement is aimed at people who want to maximize their potential. And to do that, I insist you throw caution at the wind, ignore the pleas of parents, coaches, spouses, and bosses to be realistic. Realistic people do not accomplish extraordinary things because the odds of success stymie them. The best performers ignore the odds. I will show you that instead of limiting themselves to what's probable, the best will pursue the heart-pounding, exciting, really big, difference-making dreams, so long as catching them might be a possibility. When you are aiming for a mission, you don't want to restrict yourself by being realistic. The greatest men I've met in the world, like Elon Musk, who are pursuing extraordinary big missions, they have no idea how to get there. But they trust in their intuition. They trust in their gut. I mean, Elon Musk, as I've told you, wants to put mankind on Mars. That isn't an easy goal. But he woke up one night with an idea in his head on how to optimize the energy it takes to launch an object to space. And he was inspired to start SpaceX, the rocket company. When you have these missions, you start to find that you do not have to be realistic because, like Elon, intuition speaks to you. It's like the universe is giving you nudges and pushes and prods in the right direction. I've noticed this for many, many, many extraordinary people who are pursuing a mission. They seem to have a spark of guidance, an insight, an intuition that moves them forward. If you study the biographies of great men, a lot of them have these intuitive impulses. Richard Branson once told me that he told me firstly that he hasn't really thought about intuition or the law of attraction, but he also did tell me that when he's choosing a business partner for one of his 300-something ventures, he can make up his mind in 60 seconds from shaking their hand. If you study the biography of Steve Jobs, the word intuition consistently comes up. Walter Isaacson, Jobs' biographer, said, Jobs would rely on intuitive sensing or prana or intuition, like the ancient sages of India that he so admired. Many, many, many extraordinary people talk about this intuitive impulse that seems to guide them in the right direction. I make a good deal of my business decisions through this gut impulse. I have my overriding goal, education, but I listen and I wake up some mornings with intuitive impulse. When you understand that you don't have to be realistic because you have intuition to guide you forward, you can dream big. And the beauty about dreaming big is when you dream big, your problems become small. You're no longer concerned about that little bit of weight that you might be putting on, or that waiter who was rude to you. That doesn't bug you. You're concerned about pushing humanity forward, about getting out clean water to the world, doing something for the environment, getting that new book that's going to change the education system out, spreading spirituality and consciousness. Dream big and your problems become small, but don't fall into the trap of being realistic. So how do you dream big? Well, one thing I really love is something that Bill Gates speaks about. Bill Gates said that most people underestimate what they can do in 10 years, and they overestimate what they can do in 1 year. So the 10-year vision is something that I strongly recommend. Elon Musk has a 10-year vision. When I last spoke to him about 2 years ago, I asked him, how long do you think it'll take you to get mankind on Mars? He says, I think I can do it in 10 years. I think in 10 years we can have a colony on Mars. He also mentioned, of course, that he sometimes misses his deadlines, but that doesn't bug him. He says, if it's a little bit over 10 years, it's not an issue, but I believe it's possible. Have a 10-year vision. Psychologically, people underestimate what they can do in 3 years to 10 years, but we overestimate what we can do in 1 year. So by all means, have your 1-year goals, but I like to always have a 10-year vision, a 3-year vision, and then my 1-year vision. I can tell you, my 3-year visions and my 10-year visions are pretty big, but psychologically, I know that even if they are big, most likely I'm underestimating myself. So think about your 10-year vision and expand it a bit. Because when we traditionally think about 3-year to 10-year visions, we tend to look at our current circumstance and go, okay, well, here's where I am right now. Logically, that's where I would be. But forget logic. Imagine you could tap into the universe. Where would you be then if that guidance, if those insights were coming to you? So when you remember this, when you remember that mission creates intuition, you can go way bigger on your 10-year visions and you can choose to be unrealistic. The second rule that holds us back is something I call the spiritual paradox. Let me explain what this means. I once was hypnotized by one of the world's greatest hypnotherapists, Marissa Peer. She was the hypnotherapist to the late Princess Diana and many Hollywood celebrities. See, I was trying to understand something about myself. Why, as an author, as a teacher, was I not making money from my work? Why was I quite broke? And Marissa Peer hypnotized me, and as I was under hypnosis, I certainly had the image of a teacher from my childhood. His name was Mr. Richard, and I was 13 years old, and I loved Mr. Richard. He was an incredible teacher. He was my English teacher. He was noble, he was wise. I absolutely adored this man. But Mr. Richard was always broke. He was always suffering. He always seemed sad. He would, complain about this and complain about that, but he was genuinely nice, and so I adored him. And in that hypnotherapy session, I realized something. I developed a belief that said that to be a great teacher, to be a noble teacher, you had to be suffering. You had to be broke. It was the idea of the noble yet broke teacher or sage. And somehow that belief permeated me. And so while as an entrepreneur I made money, as a teacher, as what I'm doing right now, teaching people, I never really made money. I wrote a book once that got downloaded 1 million times, and I never signed a royalty deal, so I never made any royalty from that book, even though 1 million people downloaded. I co-authored a course twice in my life, I co-authored a course with big-name authors, and they got all the royalty. I told them, look, I admire you so much, I do this for you, you don't need to pay me. I just gave away my check. I started an event called Awesomeness Fest, and thousands of people applied to come and attend Awesomeness Fest, and I would get on stage and people would give me a standing ovation, and I'd put this incredible event together, but somehow I felt bad or guilty taking part of that money. So I decided to make it a full profit, a full non-profit, and give everything away. And for the last 4 years, I've been giving away all our profits from Awesomeness Fest. And so when Marissa Peer hypnotized me, I realized that I was insane. I was so attached to this idea of being the broke teacher, the suffering sage, that it was noble to be suffering while teaching, that if I somehow made some money from teaching, I wasn't being fully into education, or I wasn't being noble enough, that I was giving away my money unnecessarily. I began to realize that I could do both, that I could be a great teacher, and I could also be really wealthy and earn my worth. Within 1 month of this, I decided that Awesomeness Fest should no longer be 100% nonprofit. I'm going to give away half the money, but the other half, I'm going to get to reinvest in my business and myself. I went back to the author who I had created a course with, and I told them, you don't have to give me any royalty. And I'm like, look, half this course is mine. Let's share the royalty. And that author, you know what he said? He said, sure, why not? And all of a sudden, my income started surging, but it didn't just stop there. I ended up signing a massive book deal, one of the biggest book deals in publishing this year, for an author who has never been published before. My income, my royalty quadrupled overnight when this belief was removed from my head. But it all happened to me because somehow at the age of 13, I decided that to be an educator, you had to be broke. So this is a situation that many of us are in. Many coaches, spiritual people, are in this situation. They believe that to be spiritual, you cannot make money. You have to somehow be modest. You cannot have an ego. And I want to share with you a remarkable essay by Ken Wilber called Egolessness. So egolessness basically deconstructs the spiritual paradox, which is the paradox that you cannot be spiritual and wealthy. Wilber says a typical person wants the spiritual sage to be less than a person, somehow devoid of all the messy, juicy, complex, pulsating, desiring, urging forces that drive most human beings. We expect our sages to be an absence of all that drives us, all the things that frighten us, confuse us, torment us, confound us. We want our sages to be untouched by them together. And that absence, that vacancy, that less than personal is what we often mean by egolessness. But egolessness does not mean personal. It means more than personal. Not personal minus, but personal plus. All the normal personal qualities plus some transpersonal ones. Think of the great yogis, saints, sages, from Moses to Christ to Padmasambhava. They were not feeble-minded milquetoast, but fierce movers and shakers, from bullwhips in the temple to subduing entire countries. They rattle the world on its own terms, not in some pie-in-the-sky piety. Many of them instigated massive social revolutions that have continued for thousands of years. And they did so not because they avoided the physical, emotional, mental dimensions of humanness and the ego that is their vehicle, but because they engaged them with a drive and intensity that shook the world to its very foundations. No doubt, they were also plugged into the soul, deeper psychic and spirit, formless self, the ultimate source of their power. But they expressed that power and gave it concrete results precisely because they dramatically engaged the lower dimensions through which that power could speak in terms that could be heard by all. I love that. You see, we think to be spiritual, to be a noble teacher, we got to take away our ego. We cannot be ambitious. We cannot set big goals. We cannot subdue entire continents. But if you think about Christ, Moses, Padmasambhava, Gandhi, all of these men had incredible goals. And that's why the spiritual paradox holds so many of us behind. Non-attachment does not mean non-desiring. To be fully spiritual doesn't mean that you have a lack of desire of all these wonderful things that can come into your life. So you need to step out of that spiritual paradox. To be spiritual does not mean to be broke or to be lacking. Yet, I just want to say something else here before we move on. Think about how we treat many spiritual saints. Think about Osho. He was an incredible teacher, but he was chastised and lost a lot of his followers because he was criticized for having Rolls Royces. Well, let me ask you, what's wrong with that? If he could afford a Rolls Royce, there's nothing wrong with that. But we've created this idea in our head that spirituality and money are two separate things. And that brings us to the third rule, the money judgment. Okay, now take a look at that picture. How does it make you feel? I can tell you when I was choosing the picture for this slide and I looked at that picture, I thought, no, this is going to be negative. But then I decided, wait a minute, that's a rule. That's my own belief. Let me stick this in. This picture looks negative to most people. I would bet you a lot of people would see this picture as negative, especially people listening to this program, because many of you, to some degree, including myself, have that spiritual paradox. We look at that and we go, oh, guy in a suit, banker. Perhaps he made this, in some illegal Wall Street scandal. Or look, he's offering us money. Maybe he's trying to bribe us. What does he think? He can buy me with money. He can buy my attention. Um, I shouldn't be looking at that money. I should be pursuing a mission. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I shouldn't be thinking about money. Money is a means goal. And in many cases, yes. But the thing is, we have all of this drama around money because we've attached so much crap around it. Money is neither good or bad. Money simply multiplies who you are. If you're a good person, money multiplies that. If you're a bad person, money multiplies that. So when you see money, when you think of money, think of it as nothing more than a multiplier. Those of you taking this course are mostly good people, and you know that. If you're good people, money is nothing more than a multiplier. So as you set your goals, don't forget wealth. Don't forget money. Don't forget what money can buy you. Don't forget it's okay to talk about the lifestyle you want to lead with fancy cars, a beautiful house, if that is something that you want. And there's nothing wrong with wanting it. So these three rules, okay? The lack of money, the spiritual paradox, all of these rules hold us back. When I graduated, I worked for a nonprofit. And I realized that one of the things that made me quit the nonprofit to start Mindvalley was that I realized that, yes, I could be out there, I could be digging ditches, I could be doing stuff for the homeless, I could be helping people in villages, but I could also start a business, and rather than dig one ditch, start a business and influence millions of people in other positive ways and make money in the process. And so to me, it was an easy decision. I love this poem, which I stumbled across a long time back, about 15 years back, and I wrote it down and I stuck it in my diary. I no longer remember where I got this poem from, but let me read it to you. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay me no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is a just employer, it gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I work for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed, that any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid. So how much are you asking of life? So at this point, we've talked about level 3. We've talked about having a mission, but at the same time, being balanced. We've talked about getting rid of the spiritual paradox. So you can attain your mission, but you can have balance, you can have help. But you can also have the success, the wealth, the income, the lifestyle that you want. Now we go on to level 4, feelings of oneness. So what happens when you hit level 4? So when you move to level 4, a couple of ways in which you operate in terms of the universe and the world change a lot. I experienced level 4, and one of the prime incidents of level 4, which is total connectedness, several moments of my life. One was when I was in the Amazon rainforest with shamans and I took ayahuasca. I was with a jungle tribe called the Achuar that had only been discovered in the late 70s, and they still retain many of their tribal culture. They had, until the late 70s, never even known that the modern world existed. And with this shaman, when I took this ayahuasca, I suddenly felt my ego disappear, myself blend away. I saw fractals, much like that image on the screen right now, and I seemed to connect with the rainforest. I also experienced total connectedness once when I was taking a certain psychedelic that made me disappear, and vision disappeared, Mindvalley disappeared. I was this soul dancing in a fractal universe, but I felt supremely connected to everything. As hard as I could try, I couldn't remember my name. I couldn't remember who I was. I couldn't remember Mindvalley, but I felt so much bliss, so much joy, and a connectedness to all life. It was a really beautiful thing to experience. This total connectedness is something that most people, according to Ken Wilber, only experience in certain flashes, except for perhaps a few, maybe a handful of people walking the earth today who can merge with the rest of the universe consistently. But one of the things that I've discovered as I've experienced this is that dogma, the essence of religion that tells us what to do and what not to do, is really the opposite of what we need right now. Some people say that my work is, in its nature, against religion. It isn't. It's against dogma. I believe that religion has much beauty in it, but you got to embrace the love, but reject the dogma. And the dogma is everything that tells you to be separate. Although I was raised in a Hindu family, and my wife is Lutheran, and my kids are raised in, because of their grandmother raised in the Russian Orthodox Church, we embrace all religions because we believe that the idea of separation is dangerous. I don't call myself a Hindu or Lutheran or Russian Orthodox Christian because by just claiming that, I'm disconnected from the other people of the world. And so I believe in embracing all religions. Ultimately, when you experience disconnectedness, you realize that dogma doesn't exist. In fact, dogma is the opposite of what really is the true nature of reality. And the true nature of reality is you are God. I am God. Interestingly, that's dogma spelled backwards. Am God. I believe that we are gods, creating our world as we go through it. I believe that if there is a higher power, that higher power divided itself into multiple godicles, particles of God that are experiencing everything in the world. We are God experiencing itself. But because we are particles of God, we have the inherent power of God. And that power is what allows us to create the world, to tap into our intuition, to do all the other limitless things that we've just been discussing in this program. And what I want to teach you now is a technique called merging. It's a technique that you can use at level 3 to fully use the power available to you at level 3 to shift the world to your desires. But the beauty of these merging techniques is it also gently helps you move from level 3 to level 4, to experience glimpses of level 4 more often. Those glimpses when you fully feel connected in a deep way with everything. So before we get to merging, I want to teach you an advanced way of manifesting. So in the last lesson, we learned about creative visualization. I want to teach you a slightly more advanced technique from Joe Vitale. Joe Vitale is a friend. He wrote countless books, and he was in the film The Secret. He wrote the book Zero Limit, which is a remarkable book. Joe Vitale, I learned this from Joe 15 years ago. I wrote it down in my diary, and I'm sharing it with you here. Talks about this technique to shift the world. Okay? First, know what you don't want. Then, turn it around into what you want. Write it in present tense. Then, get clear. What does it mean that you don't yet have what you want? Clear all negative or limiting thinking. For example, not forgiving someone for a debt, failing at a business you dislike. Then, imagine already having it. Thank the universe for giving it to you. Then, let go. Act on your intuitive impulse and allow the result to manifest. So if you remember the last technique we showed you on creative visualization, this is a step above. And I'll tell you why this is a step above. Notice point number 3, get clear. What does it mean that you don't yet have what you want? Clear all negative or limiting thinking. Example, not forgiving someone for a debt, failing at a business you dislike. Okay, that point 3 makes a big, big, big difference. And the reason it makes a difference is that because often as we are trying to visualize a beautiful future, subconsciously we have a belief that's holding us back. Example, you want your business to grow, but you haven't yet fully forgiven yourself for an earlier business venture you had that failed. Or in my case, I once was trying to grow my income, but I hadn't forgiven myself for some bad decisions I'd made that cost me over $1 million in the past. I was angry at myself. And I could only manifest my income growth when I could forgive myself for losing $1 million in the past with a single bad decision. So this is one step, okay, from basic creative visualization to a more advanced technique. Now we're going to go to the next step, which is beyond this, to the technique called merging. Now for the next step, I'm going to introduce a number of different components that you want to bring in. The first component actually comes from Joe. That first component is called active gratitude. Joe says that he is perpetually in love with life. As he's working, he's going, wow, I just freaking love my job. As he's driving, he's like, wow, I love this car I'm in. I love this road I'm driving on. He's actively expressing gratitude for everything in life. So first rule of this merging technique is that you want to be consistently expressing gratitude for everything. Now the second rule is what we just talked about. in Joe Vitale's technique. It's forgiveness. You want to make sure that you forgive whatever aspect of the past may be bringing forth in you a negative belief towards you hitting this goal. Okay, so active gratitude, forgiveness. The third is that this technique of merging is going to happen during a state of meditation. So you need to be in a meditative level of mind. Being in at least the alpha level of mind is important for this. And the fourth is when we get to merging. Now let me tell you how I discovered merging. Okay, the fourth is actually when you merge with that which you desire. So that picture was taken a few months back when I was at an institute in Victoria, British Columbia in Canada, started by a scientist who has been studying the brains of tens of thousands of people. The program is called 40 Years of Zen. It's an expensive program, about 15 grand, but in 7 days you learn to get the same brain states that Zen monks attain in 21 to 40 years of meditation. So I spent 7 days in the chamber studying my brain, and I have a unique brain quality. I'm able to go into active delta, waking delta, and waking theta. Normally it takes people years of training, but I can do that consciously, but anyone can do it with the training. Now, what happened when I was in this chamber is I got to actually see how my brain waves were responding to different styles. So every technique that you've learned in Mindvalley, I got to perform it in my head and observe the brainwave patterns. And I noticed something really interesting. There was one particular technique that would create the best results in terms of brainwave patterns, but also the best results in the world, and that was merging. So at first I started visualizing my goal, and the scientists working with me verified this. When you visualized, your alpha amplitudes go down. It brings you out of alpha. So I wanted to find a way to see my goal and bring it forth while staying at high amplitude alpha levels and even going into theta and delta states. And that's where merging comes in. So here's the merging technique. Right now, this is a step above creative visualization. I've not discovered this in any book. It came to me as a download while I was in the chamber, and I'm now teaching it to you. So the merging technique works like this. You start by being in that state of active gratitude. So like Joe Vitale says, you must be in a state of bliss, in a state of gratitude. And again, if you remember the chapter on flow, on being in the state of limitless, before you have a vision for the future, you must have happiness in the now. So what you want to do is be in active gratitude, live your life being grateful for everything, being happy, practicing discipline. Now, when there is a problem that emerges that you want to change, you start with forgiveness. You don't just sit down and visualize the problem solved. You start with forgiveness. So if it's money, you forgive yourself for any bad money issues you made in the past. If it is health, you forgive yourself and forgive your body for any health situations you may have had. If it's attracting the man or woman of your dream, forgive yourself for maybe having your heart broken, and forgive the person who broke your heart in the past. You must forgive. Forgiveness is key to this technique. As you forgive, you heal the gaps separating you from life, from other people. Forgiveness, I noticed, was one of the big qualities that caused increase in amplitudes of alpha waves and allowed me to merge better. Now we come to merging. Okay, but before you get to merging, after you've forgiven that elements of the past, you feel the pain of your current situation. So again, if the example is money, feel the pain of not having the money you want. If the example is you want a healthy relationship, feel the pain of being alone. Now you think of a vision that renders that problem obsolete. So great, you want money, you're broke. Think of the money you want to have. Think of your bank account and it being full. You want a relationship. Think of the relationship you want. You not being alone, you being with this other person. Don't see their face, let the universe decide that, but see the other person. But here's the next part. Many people in creative visualization will creatively visualize the money in their bank account or the person that they want to be with. Nothing wrong with that, but know that when you visualize, alpha amplitudes go down. What I found far more attractive and effective is I merge with the vision. I don't visualize. I become that which I want to bring forth. I stop being vision and I become money in vision's bank account. So I look at what I want to create and I imagine that what I want to create has a consciousness. That's what I mean to bring it to consciousness. So the money in my bank account is a living, breathing consciousness. And I merge with that money. I don't feel vision being happy for having that money. I become the money. I feel the money in the bank account. I feel the money being connected to vision. I feel the money, being in that safe, being part of that bank account. If it was a relationship, I don't become the person I want to attract into my life or be me. I become the essence of that relationship. I feel that relationship, that energy between two people. As that energy, I feel myself being part of person A, part of person B, feeling love for both of these people, being the love between these people. You become the consciousness, you bring consciousness to that thing that you want to create. If you are trying to attract a new car, you don't see yourself driving the car, you become the car and you united. You become the car and yourself as one moving down the highway, and you feel that as a consciousness. What does it feel like to be that car? What does it feel like to be the essence of that car and you being together? So one of the complex things about teaching this is that when I merge, I go into a state that I cannot describe with words. And so I'm doing my best to describe it. So forgive me if it sounds a little bit vague. I know it can be vague. It's easy to say just visualize yourself in the car, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm becoming the car. When you merge with whatever it is that you want, I found that it comes to you way faster. But not only does it come to you, but often if you're just practicing creative visualization, you go out of the alpha level. And when you come out, you still start worrying about the goal. When you learn to merge, you bring consciousness to that goal, that vision. And when I notice that when I come out, I don't have any worry, any doubt that it's going to occur. It's already been created. Okay, so an important aspect of merging is that you feel the emotions of the vision. You don't feel your emotions of owning the car. You feel the emotions of the car and you coming together. The emotions of you and that dream man or woman coming together. The emotions of that money in the bank. What would the money in the bank feel like? You're bringing emotions to this idea as well. And then you come out and you release. Now, 20 seconds is enough for the merging technique. 20 seconds. If you can do it for longer, you do it for longer. You know that you're merging right if it feels like 20 seconds, but if you're to actually set a timer, it's longer. Typically, what I notice is this. When I'm merging right, you go into a dimension where there is no time. So I set a timer, I merge, and when I stop merging, I look at the timer, and I ask myself, how much time do I think elapsed? In my mind, I would think 20 seconds. When I look at the timer, it's about 1 minute to 2 minutes. You know you're merging well when you lose sense of that time. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. You got to practice. If you can't merge immediately, start with creative visualization. But the more you can bring feeling and fullness to that creative visualization, start moving to the next step, which is where you merge with the image. So there are 5 laws that help you merge better and create and alter the world in a far more effective way. And the first is make sure you're forgiving the past, both incidents and people. We've already spoken about this. Number 2, respect the golden rule. Don't do to others what you wouldn't want them to do to you. 3, feel and think of other people in life benefiting. So let's say you're merging with the car, right? And the idea of you owning the car, it helps if it's not just you in that car, but maybe your partner or your children or other people who might also benefit. 4, it must be best for everyone concerned. If you're merging to have a healthy parting of a relationship or a company growing in a way, see how that growth of that relationship benefits everyone. If it's a company growing, you might see how the growth is not about revenue growth, but staff being laid off. It's revenue growing, but staff growing, staff being rewarded better. So it must be best for everyone concerned. Jose Silva, who is the founder of the famous Silva Mind Control, said that when you're manifesting, the more people you see benefiting, the faster the universe brings you that which you seek. And 5th, it must be within the possibility area. So you can merge to basically create something that no one in the world has ever created before because it's outside the realms of science, right? For example, if you lose an arm, you can't grow a new arm. That hasn't happened yet. But the beauty of the world is that human beings are always getting on the fringes of what is impossible and making it possible. So as long as something is possible, scientifically possible, you can merge to attempt to bring it forth. But it must be within that possibility area. So remember though, as you're doing this, be in active gratitude. Before you start merging, you must be someone who is excited about life. You cannot merge when you're sad, when you're depressed. So the best way is active gratitude so that you are perpetually happy and in that state of bliss. And then when something happens, then it's a problem that you need to solve, or when you have an inspired intention to bring forth to the world, you do the merging. And I'm going to repeat it again. You forgive the past, forgive whatever might have happened in the past in relationships, with money, with health, that might be influencing your merge and you're bringing forth into the world that which you desire. Then feel the pain. That's step 2. Feel the pain of what you're feeling right now that you want to end. Step 3, think of a vision that renders the problem obsolete. And 4th, merge with the vision. Bring it into consciousness. 5th, feel the emotions of that merge. And 6, release. And you're done. So let's do the merging exercise. So at this point, I'm going to assume you're all already in active gratitude. If you want, be grateful now for the cause, for me, for whatever. And then let's get started with the merging exercise. So first, think of a problem that you want to end. Now, as you think about the problem, I want you to forgive the past. We're in part 1 right now. So with your eyes closed, think about any aspect of the past. A relationship issue, an issue with abuse, someone you may have to forgive, that might be indirectly, subconsciously affecting you, bringing forth the solution. See that person, see that problem, and forgive them. If it's a very deep transgression, you can do the deep forgiveness exercise, which takes about 5 to 7 minutes that we spoke about in Module 2 of the program. But for now, just do a quick forgiveness. See why you at a younger age may have acted that way, because you did not know better. See why that other person may have acted that way, because they did not know better. Remember that the universe gives you nothing but angels, and every past transgression is simply a way to grow. Forgive the past. Forgive yourself. Forgive the other person. Now think about the pain, the problem that you want to end. Feel the pain that this problem is bringing you or bringing other people. You have 1 minute. Fully feel the pain. It is okay if it makes you uncomfortable or angry. Feel the pain. Feeling the pain brings forth greater desire for the solution. When you feel the pain at alpha, and then you shift from pain to vision, you help, for whatever reason, end the pain and move towards the vision. Alpha is a healing state. Feel the pain. See how the pain might be hurting other people. See how it's hurting you. It's okay to get angry and frustrated. Now, think of a vision that renders the problem obsolete. Think of what the end result would look like. Don't think of a means. The universe will grant you the means, the right path. Instead, see the problem gone. See the end result. See that vision. Perhaps it's an object. Perhaps it's a situation. Perhaps it's a situation with 2 people or more. But see that end vision. Now, merge with the vision. Become the vision. You are not you. You are that vision. Feel as if you have become the consciousness of that vision. As the consciousness of that vision, what emotions do you feel? How do you feel? As the consciousness of that vision, what feelings come forth? What do you look like? What does the vision look like? Where do you feel your sense of boundaries? Feel how the vision is benefiting the world. And since you are the vision, feel how you are benefiting the world, 2 or more people. What do you feel about yourself as the vision? And now, release. You may open your eyes. That's merging for you. It's a simple exercise that you can do on your own at any time. So here's how you combine merging with the 6-phase meditation. And this is how we will end this session. So when I do the 6-phase meditation, you always start with compassion, connectedness. You go on to gratitude, you go on to forgiveness. So already in the first 3, you've set the pre-phase for merging, because the first phase is connectedness. You're connecting with the entire world. It's actually a really good practice for merging. Number 2, gratitude. It helps put you in that state of bliss. Number 3, forgiveness. For that particular forgiveness session, think about that forgiveness aspect of your life that you want to forgive, because it's going to help you merge later on. Now you come to phase 4. Phase 4 is vision for the future. That's where you're going to do the merge. So when I do phase 4, I think about all my goals. And I showed you my little goal diagram about my goals for being perpetually surrounded by love, growth, my lifestyle. But then I pick one of those goals, or I pick a new random area or a problem that emerged in my life. And I'm now going to do merging for that. Okay, so you do that in phase 4. Now in phase 5, you can continue to seeing your perfect day, and in phase 6, you can continue to the blessing. But you do the merging in phase 4. And that's it. Now, some of you are going to have questions on this. I'm answering questions for the first batch of students who went through this program. It'll be recorded in the FAQ. And if you're joining in later, listen to the FAQ, because a lot of people are going to be asking questions about merging, and I'm going to attempt to explain them. And it is hard because language is so limited to explain something as beautiful as merging, but I'll do my best. And so the FAQ for this one is going to be really interesting. Thank you for tuning in. This is Vishen. Have an incredible day.